For more than 40 years, Reba McEntire was country music's safest symbol, polished, gracious, and seemingly untouchable. She never raised her voice, never burned bridges, never exposed the ugly truths behind Nashville's sparkling curtain. Even when she was hurt, replaced, or quietly erased, she smiled, showed up, and carried the weight alone. But one night, at the Grand Ole Opry's milestone celebration, something inside her finally snapped. Surrounded by legends and cameras, Reba revealed that a powerful industry figure had deliberately worked against her, not in secret, not with rumors, but with quiet intent. Her calm confession shattered the illusion that she was unbreakable. It suggested a deeper pattern of betrayal, and it forced Nashville to confront a truth the industry had long avoided. Even the most beloved legends can be treated like disposable icons. The first betrayal, Tanya Tucker's public erasure. The first name on Reba's private list of unforgivable betrayals is Tanya Tucker. It wasn't rivalry, jealousy, or competition. It was public humiliation with intent. For years, Reba and Tanya were presented as allies, two women who understood what it meant to be dismissed and underestimated in a male-dominated industry. They spoke openly about sexism, shared frustrations, and seemed to stand together. That shared history is why the wound cut so deep. In 2014, during a nationally televised all-female tribute honoring country music's women pioneers, Reba's absence was glaring. Fans noticed immediately. When asked why Reba wasn't invited, Tanya responded publicly with one dismissive line, "Not everyone gets an invite to the party." The sentence reduced Reba's 4 decades of work to a joke, and the insult was permanently searchable. That was the moment Reba stopped pretending it was confusion. The silence that became a weapon. What made Tanya's comment worse was its history. In the mid-1990s, Reba had been quietly removed from a major country music hall of fame hosting role. Insiders later claimed Tanya's team offered tabloid access in exchange for making Tanya the sole host. Reba said nothing. She absorbed it and moved on. But the 2014 insult was different because it was public, deliberate, and unambiguous. Reba didn't ask for revenge. She didn't demand apologies. She simply cut all contact. No calls, no attempts at reconciliation, no explanations requested. In later interviews, when asked about female rivalry, Reba said, "I believe in lifting each other up. I also believe people show you who they are." That sentence was a quiet verdict. Tanya didn't just take a spotlight, she used mockery to erase Reba's place in history. Second betrayal, Vince Gill's silence. After the CMA betrayal. The second name is Vince Gill, not for something he said, but for what he never said. Their fracture began at the 2001 CMA Awards, a night meant to reinforce Reba's power as one of country music's most respected voices. She was scheduled for a televised duet, rehearsed, approved, promoted, and confirmed. Everything was locked in. Then, hours before the final run-through, her name vanished from the set list. No warning, no explanation. The duet went forward without her, with Vince Gill standing alone under the lights. The professional hurt could have been survivable, but the silence afterward was unbearable. Vince didn't call, he didn't explain, he didn't apologize. Reba later described the moment with a single line: "The silence was louder than any insult." When silence becomes consent. In Nashville, influence is often unspoken. At the time, Vince's power within CMA and Opry circles was rising. Even a private objection could have forced a conversation. But none came. Reba interpreted the silence as consent, if not orchestration. The aftermath was quiet, just like the betrayal itself. Reba didn't leak complaints or create drama. She simply closed the door. Their interactions became formal, distant, and rare. Collaborations stopped. Warmth vanished. The relationship never recovered. Later, when asked about painful industry moments, Reba referenced a performance that never aired and declined to elaborate. Those close to her knew exactly what she meant. The night taught her a rule she never forgot. When someone benefits from your disappearance and says nothing, they've already chosen a side. Third betrayal. Travis Tritt's quiet gatekeeping. The third name is Travis Tritt, and his betrayal was delivered quietly, behind closed doors. In the early 2000s, Reba was invited to join a high-profile all-star country project meant to celebrate tradition and legacy. She accepted immediately, excited and honored. Then the final lineup was released, and her name was gone. She didn't hear it from producers or managers. She learned through a studio employee, visibly uncomfortable delivering news that should never have been secret. Insiders later confirmed what Reba suspected. Tritt objected to her inclusion, arguing the project should remain male-driven. His opinion carried weight, and the producers listened. That alone was painful. But it didn't stop there. A second act of erasure. Months later, Reba agreed to perform at a Georgia charity event connected to Tritt's management circle. She cleared her schedule, rehearsed, and committed fully. Then, days before the show, her appearance was quietly cancelled. The explanation was vague. Her performance no longer fit the program. Again, no one called her directly. That silence mattered. When asked later about Tritt, Reba offered only one sentence. "We don't sing in the same key." Those who knew her understood immediately. She wasn't talking about music. She was talking about values. She was talking about who believes women belong at the center of country music and who believes the genre should be guarded like private property. Tritt didn't need to insult her publicly. His actions spoke clearly enough. Fourth betrayal, the Opry's political cut. During Naomi Judd's memorial, the fourth name isn't a single person, but a decision made inside the Grand Ole Opry, tied to Pete Fisher and Dan Rogers. In May 2022, during the memorial honoring Naomi Judd, Reba was invited to perform a closing tribute. Naomi wasn't just a legend to Reba. She was a peer, a confidant, a woman whose private battles Reba understood. The tribute was meant to be sacred, controlled, and meaningful. The song was chosen carefully. Rehearsals were private. Everything was designed to honor Naomi properly. Then, less than 24 hours before the memorial, the program changed. Reba's role was reduced, her performance shortened, and her placement shifted earlier, stripping the tribute of the meaning it was supposed to hold as a final farewell. A grief negotiated, like a TV segment. Reba didn't learn about the change from a person. She learned from an updated rundown emailed to her team. People close to the situation say Pete Fisher and Dan Rogers pushed the revision. There had already been tension. Fisher had clashed with Reba over scheduling and visibility, and Rogers reportedly complained that she appeared too often during high-profile Opry broadcasts. At Naomi's memorial, those resentments resurfaced at the worst possible time. Reba still walked onto the stage and sang with restraint and grace. She didn't lash out. She didn't make it a headline. But after the performance, she left. She declined interviews and skipped the after-event dinner. Weeks later, on a podcast, she finally revealed the truth. That night broke my heart in more ways than one. The message was clear. Grief is not negotiable. Fifth betrayal, G. Brooks and the Broken Tour. Promise. The fifth and final name belongs to a betrayal of promises, calendars, and trust, centered on G. Brooks. In the early 2000s, Reba and G discussed a co-headlining tour. It wasn't a rumor. It was a real plan taking shape behind the scenes. Routing was considered, scheduling discussed, and conversations moved forward like something both sides believed was happening. Reba adjusted her commitments. She cleared space. She made room for a future that was being promised privately. Then the momentum vanished. Announcements appeared, without her name. The tour concept survived, but Reba's involvement did not. She didn't get a warning call. She didn't get a hold tight. She learned the way the public did, after the decision had hardened into reality. When private promises become public damage, sources alleged that G redirected the tour after reassessing commercial control and branding, choosing a configuration that gave him clearer authority. What angered Reba wasn't the pivot, it was the method. Because when she cleared her schedule and the plan evaporated without notice, she didn't just lose a tour, she lost credibility. In Nashville, uncertainty is treated like weakness. Reba didn't confront G publicly. She never hinted at it in interviews. She never weaponized the story. But the temperature changed. Joint ideas stalled. Invitations cooled. Professional warmth became formality. That episode permanently changed how she did business with power players. Handshakes gave way to contracts. Optimism yielded to verification. Silence stopped being interpreted as patience. Conclusion: Reba's quiet revolution. If you look at these 5 names individually, it's easy to dismiss them as isolated incidents. A bad night, a cancelled slot, a tour that changed direction, a tribute that was rearranged. But Reba didn't live them as separate moments. She lived them as a pattern, because the message underneath was always the same. You can be legendary and still be treated like you're replaceable. You can be the backbone of the genre and still be edited out of the story. Reba never shouted. She never demanded apologies. She simply stopped trusting handshakes, stopped believing silence meant respect, and stopped confusing tradition with loyalty. In a world built on smiles and polite silence, she learned that clarity is the most dangerous weapon. She didn't burn bridges, she stopped crossing them. And that is why these 5 moments still matter. Not because they expose scandal, but because they reveal how easily even legends can be erased when power goes unquestioned.